Making everyone happy on vacation isn't easy, but you know what is? Going to Aruba. All you have to do is walk out your door to find pristine pools, relaxing white sand beaches, and an island teeming with outdoor activities that'll put a smile on any face. You won't just feel great, you'll all feel great, filled with a calmer, more peaceful vibe that radiates Aruba's warmth. And the best part is, it never fades. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your family trip at Aruba.com.
This podcast is supported by FX's English Teacher, a new comedy from executive producers of What We Do in the Shadows and Baskets. English Teacher follows Evan, a teacher in Austin, Texas, who learns if it's really possible to be your full self at your job while often finding himself at the intersection of the personal, professional, and political aspects of working at a high school. FX's English Teacher premieres September 2nd on FX. Stream on Hulu.
This is Optimal Relationships Daily. When is it a fair amount of time for a guy to know that he wants you? By Evan Marc Katz of evanmarckatz.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ORD. I'm Greg Audino, your host and narrator, and today I'll be sharing yet another Q&A from the website of Evan Marc Katz, longtime author and contributor. Let's hear his response to a reader of his who just is not sure where she stands with a guy that she's interested in, as we get to the reading now and optimize your life. When is it a fair amount of time for a guy to know that he wants you? By Evan Marc Katz of evanmarckatz.com. Hi, Evan. I just found your website and I wish I'd read it years ago. I really appreciate your insight and honesty. And everything you say makes sense. My question is this. I take on board all of your "he's just not that into you" reasoning, and also your comments on how to tell if a man is truly interested, calling, making plans, etc. My problem, historically, is that if I really genuinely like a guy, which sadly does not happen that often, I expect these things to happen right away. I get frustrated if I feel he's not doing those things, and rather than make what is usually the classic girl mistake of calling or texting him all the time, I decide I'm about to get hurt and freeze him out. I did this recently with a guy I was really smitten with. We'd only known each other 3 weeks, kissed once, had 2 dates alone, but because I didn't hear from him for 5 days, I went super cool on him, unfriended him on Facebook, etc. A few weeks on now, the red mist has cleared. I think I wanted too much too soon and just wish I'd sat back, played it cool, and followed your advice on mirroring. He still sends me occasional friendly texts, which so far I answered, but then cut short before they get into conversation. Can I turn this around and start again if the opportunity or another text materializes? At what point do the rules of "he's just not that into you" kick in? With thanks from girl with a bruised heart, Terry. Thanks for the kind words, Terry. Sorry to see you have regrets, but as I just read on a friend's Facebook page the other day, if you don't have regrets, you haven't lived your life to the fullest. I'm not sure I agree. Frankly, I think if you have regrets, you haven't lived life to the fullest, but that's not really the point. The point is that making mistakes is part of living, and no one lives an error-free existence. And make no mistake about it, you botched this one by pulling the overly emotional girl act. What for? Think about it for a second. What did you actually gain by cutting him off entirely? That's right. Nothing. Your unfriending was pure ego. And I get it. I just unfriended someone who was rude to me at my high school reunion last month. The difference is that she'll never notice, whereas the man you were seeing will definitely pay attention. Yet somehow, Terry, your undaunted guy continues to send you friendly texts. And somehow, despite your previous experience of being cold to an interested guy, you continue to be cold to him, cutting short the texts before they turn into conversation. Why? This guy likes you, and you're doing everything in your power to stop him. I suppose you can mount an argument that playing aloof is keeping him interested, but you're missing the most important part of mirroring. You're supposed to do what he does. So if he takes 5 days to call you back, you can get back to him in 5 days. And if he says, "I love you" first, you say, "I love you" back. And if he writes you a long, warm text message, you respond to him in kind. That way, you're never pushing him away with neediness and always keeping the door open for possibility. Really, Terry, this drama is entirely of your own making. Because if you simply sat back and waited for him to reveal himself and his actions, guess what? He would have called you after 5 days. You would have had an amazing third date, and chances are at this point you'd already be boyfriend-girlfriend. Most importantly, if he did not step up to the plate to make the effort necessary to be your boyfriend, if he did not call more than once a week for 2 months, if he did not talk about exclusivity or a future, if he did not make you feel that your relationship was escalating, voila, you have your answer. No need to throw a fit or unfriend him on Facebook. When a guy isn't doing what you want after a reasonable amount of time, that's 2 to 3 months at the longest, the best thing to do, the only thing to do, is wish him well and find another guy. It's really quite simple. Your big takeaway from this post should be to have the confidence and patience to let things evolve at an organic pace. You may be used to diving into relationships and having instant passion, chemistry, and commitment. I also can make the safe prediction that none of those relationships have lasted. So please, give a guy a break for not knowing if you're his girlfriend, much less wife, after a few weeks. I have one client now who has met a guy twice, and she's very frustrated that he's not yet her boyfriend. I've got another who has had 4 dates in 3 weeks and feels the same way. He should be more excited about me. He should be telling me he loves me. No, he should not. Every time a guy has ever told you he loves you in 3 weeks, the relationship is burned out. Maybe this time has a better chance for being real, because you've both taken the time to evaluate each other instead of committing first and figuring out your compatibility later. You just listened to the post titled, "When is it a fair amount of time for a guy to know that he wants you?" by Evan Marc Katz of evanmarckatz.com, and I'll be right back with my commentary. Okay, and thanks to Evan for this post. A lot of good and honest observations from him, specifically about the role that ego has played in his asker's approach, and how it might have hurt her more than helped her. However, I do think that one could argue that there are traces of ego in the behavioral shifts that Evan has suggested as well, particularly his note about mirroring the behavior of the man she's dating. This could be a way of protesting, I'm not going to put in any more effort than you do. Again, not necessarily laden in ego-driven behavior, but it could be quite easy for someone hearing this piece of advice to take it that way. But the bigger problem there for me is that it feels very reactive and very protective. The message there is not to express yourself in the way you might want to, but rather to stand some kind of ground so as not to get overly involved at worst and appease the other person at best. I'm not sure I agree with it, but hey, one of the great parts of this show is hearing different perspectives from author to author and also between author and host. So you can try different ideology on for size and see what works for you. So contemplate what you have heard today and see what you come up with, everyone. It's time to get going for now, but it has been a pleasure as always. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.